Wicked cool. Feature alert.
Hey there, podcast fans. Thanks for listening. Now, you can also reach out and send me a text message. On every episode, at the top of the show notes, you'll see a link that says, send us a text message. Simply click it, write something super nice and sweet, and away we go. Also remember to please subscribe, share this podcast with a friend by telling them about it, and leave us a positive review, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, your favorite podcast streaming service, or even on our website at www.afraidofnothingpodcast.com.
Oh, is this that pirate man thing you were going on about in class?
Sailor man.
I don't believe in ghost stories.
He's not a ghost. The Sailor Man is real. He doesn't take kindly to visitors stopping on his door.
You're a monster.
I am what I am.
We are back with a vengeance on Popeye the Slayer Man, available now in select theaters and streaming where you love your gruesome horror. A couple weeks ago, we had the filmmakers. Tonight, it's the actors' opportunity to turn the tables and spill the beans and blood about what it was like facing the wrath of Popeye the Slayer Man.
Sound effects from Zapsplat.com. Musical clip, Sailor to Slayer, by the band The Man from Alphabet, for the motion picture Popeye the Slayer Man.
In a world where nothing is known, nothing is certain, reality is not real. Wake up! Be afraid of nothing. I'm Bob Heskey.
Robert.
The host with the ghost.
This is my podcast, based on my paranormal documentary, Afraid of Nothing. Each episode, we talk to people who see life and the afterlife through a different lens. Join me.
Who is this large man? And what's he doing in our bedroom?
As we lift the veil and open our minds to see beyond our eyes lie. This is Afraid of Nothing.
Well, tonight, listeners, it's Deja Kill. A couple weeks ago, we had the filmmakers from the new horror film Popeye the Slayer Man. And tonight, we have the brave actors, a trio of brave actors that were on the film. But before we meet them, I want to reintroduce to everyone my talented co-host and actor in the series 0 Day, Cuyle Carvin. Kyle, how you doing?
I don't remember.
Okay, well.
Producer's note. Insert awkward silence cricket sound effect.
How's it been going with 0 Day so far? Have you been, getting any feedback from people, or how's that experience been going now that's on Netflix?
This is not a direct answer, but this is like the first thing I did after the SAG-AFTRA contract. So it's like I know that I'm always like calculating residuals. Sounds funny, but trying to figure out like what residuals are what possible residuals are like with this new structure, because you get like a bonus if there's it's like a performance bonus, and I don't remember what it is, but I saw on Netflix that it was number 1 in the US come week 2. And then it was number 1 in 90 countries around the world. So I'm like, I think this might be like bonus status. So I'm really hoping that's the case, because that means doing well and I'll get a bonus.
I hope your bonus is better than the bonus I just got from work. It was pretty bad. So I'm hoping you get some good stuff out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are 3 of your friends, actually, that are actors that appeared in the film. Do you mind introducing them briefly to us? And then I'll have them introduce their characters in the film.
Absolutely. So we have a Mr. Sean Michael Conway, and then a Sarah Nicklin and an Angela Relucio. And all of them were actors in the movie. And then Angela, she was also one of the producers on the film, and she's also been doing some work helping us get the PR machine rolling.
That's great. It seems to be working well. I should say first, the movie, for people who didn't hear our first podcast, Popeye the Slayer Man, of course, is based on Popeye the Sailor Man, who is now in the public domain. And the premise behind the film is it follows a group of friends who sneak into an abandoned spinach canning factory to film a documentary on the legend of the Sailor Man, who's said to haunt the factory in local docks. So that's kind of a pretty cool setup. Angela, we'll start with you first. Can you introduce us to your role, who you play in the film?
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Angela Relucio, and I play Margot, and I'm a real estate agent. So there's going to be some wheeling and dealing going on amidst all this. But let's just leave it at that. I'm excited to be here with you guys today and talk more all about this.
Excellent. And Kyle mentioned past credits. You're pretty well known from Code Black. You had a recurring character role, and you actually appeared in one of my favorite series, Ozark. Do you mind telling us a little bit about, our audience, how they would recognize you from Code Black and which episode you were in on Ozark?
Yes, thank you. I had a wonderful experience in 3 years recurring as Nurse Risa on Code Black, which is a medical drama that was on CBS. And I played a nurse. And then, being no stranger to the medical field, I suppose, I played a doctor on Ozark in the last season. I love the show, too. I agree with you, Bob. It was fantastic. I do cross genres. I personally love a lot of genres, but horror has always been near and dear to my heart. But I love to straddle all of it. So 1 hour episodic drama to indie horror. I love it all. And clearly I'm no stranger to blood, because I always play a lot of medical characters.
Yeah, it's like Kyle always plays a lot of cops or law enforcement people. I want to say this. If people recognize your name, your sister Therese was on an episode called The Medium Who Stopped. That was about maybe 1 or 2 years ago, probably now. But she was awesome. We'll talk about paranormal experiences later on. But is she still stopped being a medium, or has she gone back to it?
I don't know if you can really fully stop. And thank you, by the way. She is awesome. And I'll make sure I pass your hello to her. I don't know if you can ever really stop doing that, because even when we were kids, she would, before knowing what it was, sort of explain her experiences. So I think you can certainly control it or tamp it down a little bit. But no, she's gifted with what the rest of us don't have to that ability. I think we're probably on that sort of spectrum, right? But yeah, I don't know if she can fully give it up like a job, Are you glad you don't have that skill, or jealous? I have enough voices going on in my head, Bob, just with me alone. So I don't. But no, I think it's a double-edged sword. I wouldn't, if I were gifted with that, I wouldn't shun it. But as of now, I have my hands full. So
excellent. Okay, cool. We're going to go to Sarah Nicklin now, and Sarah, I'm going to guess that horror is one of your favorite genres, because I hope you don't mind me saying you're somewhat of a scream queen. You've been in a lot of cool independent and feature films and shorts and things of that nature. Would you mind introducing yourselves and your role? You play Adrian.
Yes, that's correct. So I play Adrian. She's a drug addict, which is a type of role that I've never gotten to play before, which is one of the reasons why it was so interesting and appealing to me. And it's essentially the opening of the film, the Drew Barrymore role of Scream. It's the easiest way to think of it. It immediately paints a picture in your head. So chased by some thugs, decide I'm going to go and hide in a abandoned spinach canning factory, and it does not go well for me from there.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of bad choices for that actor. You were also in Black Mass. You want to talk about that and what that was like?
Sure, yeah. So The Black Mass is a true crime thriller. It came out last year. It's shot entirely over the shoulder of the serial killer, and it is based on real-life events of Ted Bundy when he went to Florida and massacred the sorority there after he escaped from jail in Utah. Devaney Pinn, who was the director of that, was very careful to make sure that she was approaching this in a way that where all the focus was on the victims rather than glorifying the serial killer. So she really took a lot of effort to make sure that you're seeing the lives that were lost, as opposed to taking this monster and showing him in any sort of almost heroic light, which a lot of true crime movies do unintentionally end up doing.
And one of your funnest roles was something called None of That. That was a while ago, early in your career. And it's really one of those little indie treasures that people don't find, but they probably should look it up. So that was you played a nun, but a nun with a vengeance,
yes,
right?
Sister Wrath. God, that movie just keeps coming up. I'm never going to escape it. We did that probably in 2009, so 15 years ago, and that movie just keeps on going. I still get people reaching out to me about it. A couple of years ago, someone on Twitter found the poster and shared it, and then that thing just like went viral. I'm like, guys, this movie's been around for a while.
Yeah, I think it's one of those that will never die. It's such a cool little concept and was executed very well, and it's such a great role.
It was really fun.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to go away.
It was really, really fun. It is still out on streaming. It was retitled or re-released under the name Sister Wrath as opposed to None of That. So it is still out there and available. But that one's really fun. Old school grindhouse, nunsploitation, horror action comedy full of all of the most ridiculous puns that you can think of.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Sean, you play Dexter in the film, and one of your prior credits was A Ouija Witch, which is another Cuyle Carvin Salem House picture. So first you want to kind of introduce us to your character Dexter, then we could talk a little bit about A Ouija Witch.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having us on, Robert. Yeah, I played the role of Dexter in Popeye the Slayer Man. He is the leader of the motley crew of friends who charge into the factory to make a documentary. He's a documentary filmmaker. He's a bit awkward, but you can't help but root for him.
Cool. I hope he makes it to the end. What about A Ouija Witch? What did you play in that film? I'm trying to remember because I saw that.
Yeah, Ouija Witch, I played the role of Asher Cross. He is part of kind of the wrong group of friends in town. He's a little bit more of a pushover, and you kind of feel bad for him, but ultimately he does make some poor decisions because he just rolls with the bad boys.
Everybody makes poor decisions in horror movies, right? It's the same
oh, yeah.
kind of part of the character flaw.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kyle, this is a great group of talented actors and actresses. How did the casting work out? How did you get them on board for the film?
Well, we just asked since I know all three of them.
Okay. Wow.
Which is, honestly, that's the best way, I think, for everybody. I think it makes the whole process much easier because auditioning inherently is like an archaic process. And most of the time it's like nobody really, I mean, I could be wrong. I'm sure there's some masochist actors like that just love auditioning. I'm certainly not one of them. I'd rather just be asked to do things. But that said, we still had, I think, Sean, I think you did audition, right? We had you just audition just because we wanted to really make sure.
I originally auditioned for Asher for Ouija Wish. And then I think from there, I don't recall putting anything on tape.
Well, maybe we didn't then, yeah, because there's some folks we had. That's with every film we add to the Rolodex of actors. So it's like that we want to work again. So it's great because we meet more and more people we want to hire again. But then again, then it's the next film, and we only have 8 people we can cast out of the ever growing population of people we want to work with again. So it's always these tough decisions. But, and Bob, you know this, when you're writing a script and casting, it's like you already have kind of an idea in your head, and you almost start automatically going through like, who do I know that really fits this vision in my head of them? So it's like all 3, Sean, Sarah, and Angela in this case, were just like first choices to us. That doesn't necessarily mean that they'll always want to do it, especially when we're all such good friends. And Sarah in particular, she has this amazing resume and body of work that we didn't almost want to offer this particular role because we thought maybe it was actually too small in that case. But we did anyway, because we've also wanted to work with Sarah for a long time. So he's like, well, we can just ask him. She says, no, we'll do something else. But like she said, this is a role a little bit different than anything she's played before. And I knew she'd be good at it because I met Sarah when we used to shoot up heroin together back like 15 years ago. So.
You're not supposed to tell people that,
yeah, sorry, I'm not supposed to say that. No, we were like, we played a boyfriend-girlfriend situation. I don't know if that was like 2007, 2006, something like that. But
I think it was like 2007. It was after none of that, so I think it was right 2007.
Okay, yeah,
somewhere in there.
So, and then we became buddies way back in the day, but I don't think we ever did anything major after that again.
Sarah, did you know about Kyle's kind of reincarnation deal with Salem? Did he ever tell you about that?
No. I mean, Kyle, I know he lives Salem.
That's in the, he was in the documentary Afraid of Nothing, which is this podcast is based on. So yeah, real quick, we'll get back to Popeye. But Kyle, when I made a documentary, there was a medium, Ruthie Larkin, the Beantown medium, and she reached out to me. She said, there's this actor in LA. You were in LA at the time, I think, Kyle. She did a reading for you, and she came up with that you had a past life in Salem, and you were one of the guys that tried to save someone from being hanged. And we don't know how it ended, but it looked like you might have been hanged. But yeah, that was that. So yeah, Kyle has this whole backstory. When he goes to Salem, it feels like home, right, Kyle?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. There's been multiple mediums and psychics who've tied me back in the early days of Salem. So
even Laurie Bruno, who is when we shot in the film, she picked up a bunch of stuff too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Salem is your home. You're going to end up there.
Yeah,
it really is. But we enjoyed yearly pilgrimages to Salem, having known the sort of stuff that the mystique that Kyle was drawn to it.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is an Afraid of Nothing paranormal podcast alert.
$10 merch. $10 merch.
That's right, podcast fans. If you go to our website, afraidofnothingpodcast.com, and click on the store tab, you too can find now $10 merch on the website. So not only can you get the great stuff like the hoodies and the t-shirts and the blankets and the glasses, you can also get stickers and bumper stickers and, well, a whole lot more. You need to see it yourself. But just remember this.
$10 merch
is now available at the Afraid of Nothing podcast store. Check it out. And remember, never be afraid to look good.
Yeah, and a Ouija witch. I mean, I think did you end up going to the Ouija, the Talking Board Museum when you went to Salem, Kyle? When you shot?
Well, it's funny. That was a thought. We didn't do it for the movie. We when we went up to Salem to just get that one day of it was kind of like pick up some B-roll as well, but it was a really quick day because we drove up, had food. Basically, it had a giant rainstorm, so that killed a lot of the night that we were going to film. So we had to like sneak sneak in a few shots here and there. And then in the morning, because we only had that night and then a few things in the morning, we wanted to get like the sunrise and everything. So we didn't get to enjoy Salem too much, but still a good time, of course. But yeah, we didn't get to see too much of Salem during that trip.
This script is kind of, last time when I spoke we did the podcast with the directors and the producers. This script is, I mentioned had a little Terrifier aspect to it, where it's got really visceral kill scenes, which is kind of unlike other stuff that Kyle, I think you guys had done before. So I guess I'll go around. I'll start with Angela, with you first. What was your reaction when you read the script and realized you're going to be shooting not seeing daylight, but in the evening for most of this thing, and dealing with some gallons of blood being thrown on there's some really harsh kill scenes in this film.
Well, the funny thing is when you're the actor or the talent, I'm like, whoa, that's going to be tough. I'm glad I don't have to figure that out. So, but no, making indie horror, we do have to wear many hats. So of course I was concerned with like how we're going to pull this off. And I think we did a great job. And, with RJ doing all the special effects, basically, I think you're going to be wowed when you see this, Bob. But when I read the script, the kills that were described are so out there that your eyeballs sort of pop out of their head and you go, what? Whoa. And at the same time, it's not even like a grossed out, horrified feeling. It's more like, yeah. And it's fun. There's such an element of exaggeration that it can't be anything more than horrifying and fun combined.
Yeah, it almost has like that I haven't seen the film yet, but from some of the trailer and talking to Kyle, has almost like that 1980s or whatever. It's kind of like that, you don't have a lot of special effects, but there's some real gruesome blood splattering and stuff. So I think horror fans will find that they'll like it. And Sarah, I have to ask you, because you've been in a number of horror films, what was your reaction, and how did you think you guys pulled it off?
Whenever I read really elaborate effects in a script for an indie horror film, I honestly get really nervous because they don't always get pulled off well. And I think a lot of times things on paper sound really good, but then the execution can be hit or miss, honestly, a lot of the time. But I think in this one, I think it's a lot of hit. I think the effects, especially even with what you've seen with just what's been released so far with the trailer and the opening, as you can tell, they're really effective. They're really bloody. They're really gory. They're giving you really everything that you want in a throwback to that practical effects era heyday of the 80s.
And, like Angela, was it just a lot of fun to deal with this type of situation and this kind of goriness, and maybe not for your character, but overall with the whole environment in that canning factory?
The environment in the canning factory was amazing. That factory was so creepy just by itself. Like being in there, no acting required. It was scary as it was. When it comes to doing special effects, I was actually fairly glad that I didn't have any heavy prosthetics. I mean, they're really fun to do and they look really cool, but the cleanup of them can sometimes be a pain in the ass. So luckily for me, I just get splattered with blood in the face a lot, which is not too bad. And also, luckily, we were all inside for all of it, which is such a big plus. I can't tell you how many times I've been out in the woods in 30 degrees in the middle of nowhere, covered in blood and just shivering. So being inside covered in blood is definitely a huge plus. And there was even a shower. So after I got all bloody, I got to take a nice hot shower, which was wonderful. Nothing but the best on these sets.
I'm imagining like you didn't have to throw much dirt and dust and cobwebs in this factory. Did you ever worry that you'd come across a homeless person or a big rat or something, or a bat flying around, or did that happen at all during the film?
If I came across a rat or a bat, I would try to take it home with me.
Okay.
They were definitely like.
She's perfectly cast, Kyle, for this.
That's what I'm saying. They were definitely like some. I don't know about rats or anything because I'm pretty sure they're the facility that we shot at is like a feed company, and I'm sure they have a lot of measures against rodents and such. But there are definitely birds. It's funny. There's this little clip that came out the other day, just like a 1-minute teaser of a behind the scenes documentary that came out. I think it's actually going around today or yesterday or on social, but there's this shot of Robert, the director, and you can see a bat fly through.
Wow.
That little frame. So there were pigeons and bats flying in the factory for sure.
Wow. And Sean, what about you? Were you mostly, I mean, I assume there's some outside shots as you're like heading toward the canning factory, but I'm sure most of the time was spent inside. And if I recall, a lot of it was after 6 p.m. or whatever. Because is this an actual working canning factory, Kyle, or is it abandoned?
Yeah, it's actual, it's not a canning factory. It's like an animal feed mill.
Okay.
And it's where they basically combine ingredients for farmers and local, I think, farms, and then also people that just need local feed. So it's just full of that dust, feed dust everywhere. And there are portions of the factory that just, you can tell, like, there's certainly, they probably have a very mild cleanup crew for areas that they use actively, but there are places in there that probably haven't been used in well over a decade that just have layers of everything you could think of in there, I'm guessing.
Was this in Oneonta, your hometown, or where was it?
Yeah, it was in Oneonta. They basically shut down around 5 every day, and then the workers show up anytime from, say, 3 to 5 or 6 in the morning. Everything was overnight, whatever you could kind of fit in that 10-hour-ish period.
So you were envisioning this when you were around the kitchen table, with Robert and everybody else, figuring out the story. Was this in the back of your mind that, hey, I know this factory in my hometown we should shoot at? Was this kind of, or did it pop up later on? No pun intended on the pop up.
Yeah, right. No, we didn't know. We didn't think about this particular place, being that we shot in Oneonta multiple times, and we just know in the surrounding community, like me growing up there, and then so much of the crew that grew up there. It's just we kind of know. We have feelers throughout the whole county, really. So we knew we could find something. This particular place didn't actually come up until in the process. It was just kind of a throwaway idea. We didn't actually think we were going to be able to do it, but I couldn't imagine a more perfect place.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. And it sounds like there's a premiere coming, I think, probably tonight for the cast. And then the show premieres on the 21st in theaters and streaming on certain platforms. So, Sean, are you in LA? Are you attending the premiere?
Absolutely. I'll be there tonight. I'm in Los Angeles right now. As soon as we're finished up, we're going to start getting ready. So super excited. I've got tons of people in Los Angeles, Philadelphia, and around the country that are just itching to see this movie. So I'm keeping everybody updated. I think we just got some theaters confirmed today of when it's going to be coming out. So I'm like letting everybody know.
No, that's great. And any of your family and friends Popeye fans that are like, oh, God, why did you have to do this to Popeye? Or are they all just waiting to see it?
Most people who I talk to just love it. They crack up every time. Like you were saying about Terrifier, I think the thing that connects us with Terrifier the most is the rebellious aspect of it. A group of filmmakers who are like, we're going to do something naughty. We're going to do something we're not supposed to do. Popeye, he's going to start killing people now, and in the most gruesome ways you could ever imagine. And I think that's just so much fun for adults, especially for adults who grew up watching Popeye. It's such a fun satire, and the script is so witty on top of being so visceral that I think it's going to really send home like the fun that we had on set.
Yeah, there's some really tongue-in-cheek humor that plays off the Popeye character. And, it's interesting because a couple years ago, the first of probably many coming, the Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Mm-hmm. Pooh, I have a hard time going to the theater and thinking, being afraid, but Popeye could be pretty violent, so I could see how that could translate. So I would think that would, be a pretty, and plus the forearms, that's scary in its own right. So it's just a cool type of whole thing going on here that just resonates well with a horror rendition.
Yeah, Popeye fits like a glove in horror. You could totally see him. He's already angry in the regular family-friendly show.
Oh yeah, he's just beating the daylights out of. You couldn't have. Was it Bruto? Is it Bruto? What's his name? I'm sorry,
Bluto.
Yeah. You couldn't have him in the film, Kyle, because he wasn't in the public domain yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a few elements of Popeye. The only thing that was really in the public domain was the original Popeye cartoon. We did a ton of research and talked to lawyers about what we could and couldn't use. Some of it seems to be a little wishy-washy. Popeye, from my understanding, Popeye itself, there's certain trademarks that still exist even outside of public domain. So, yeah, like a lot of the characters weren't in public domain, so we couldn't put them in the film. And by the way, I do want to add, by the time this airs, this particular episode, the movie will be out. So, if you guys wanted to talk about plot points or any particular kills that you're part of, you can, because the movie will be out.
All right, Sean, you have an opening. Go ahead. What do you want to?
Oof. I mean, I think honestly, for me, like seeing all the kills happen on set was just fantastic. I wasn't always on every day, but I would just show up anyhow because I just wanted to see people get messed up.
Would you say your character Dexter is a likable one, or people would be rooting for him to, kind of have his head crunched or something?
No, I think he's pretty likable. I think that people are definitely rooting for him. They don't want him to die, and I think a lot of characters, I'd probably say like half the characters they don't necessarily they're not asking to die, but I think a handful of them, everyone's going to be cheering. Like, thank God that dude is gone. And we've got like a group, just like in Ouija Witch, we have like a group of these like kind of, real pieces of shit, and they get their comeuppance in the same fashion. But this time it's, to a 10.
Tell us how you really feel, Sean.
Yeah.
Sean has like, there's a point where Popeye grabs Sean by the arm and snaps it. And when you see the wound, like
I'm already wincing.
Yeah. I was like, I wasn't there when this happened. Otherwise I probably would have argued against the intensity of the wound, because it's definitely, it's a horror film, and we wanted to go bigger than normal. So from that angle, it makes sense. But it's like a major compound fracture where the bone's just sticking out. And I'm like, this is way too much, because he's still got to be able to function and talk in this movie. And I'm like, looking at that thing, I'm like, he's going to be passed out and in shock the rest of the movie. When that happens to him, it's a pretty, it makes you wince, because that's ridiculous.
It's funny because we dialed it back a little bit. It was less graphic. Yeah.
Did you really?
They were gonna go even more intense with the initial break, but they kind of simplified it. I guess they just wasn't giving the look that they did. But I suppose that between Jason and I selling it, it did its job.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, Sarah, you playing a drug addict, Adrian, probably is the best role, because that person wouldn't feel any pain, right? If someone's breaking your arm or anything.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. I actually don't get any broken bones or broken arms. You don't see me die on camera.
Well, we don't know.
It's a lost opportunity, Kyle. What's going on?
Well, that's what I'm saying is technically we don't know what happens to Sarah. So, if you'd like, you can come up with whatever happened to her that you wish.
Fill in the blank.
It was all a dream, or it was all a hallucination. Who knows, Sarah? Yeah. So anything kind of wonky happened to you, Sarah? Like in this, were there any creep moments or anything that happened behind the scenes that the audience would find interesting?
Honestly, it was all super smooth. Like I was there for a day. Not even. I think I was there for maybe 8 hours in total. It was pretty quick. Everyone was super nice. Everything was running on time. There were no hiccups. All of the effects went off the way that they're supposed to. When I get hit in the face with the blood, that's the first take, because you only get one take of that. And that looked good and worked out. So it was all really, really smooth, which never happens.
Yeah, wow, Kyle, that's you guys have a good system down. I made one film and everything bad happened, or everything possible.
It's only because we've all this is our for the majority of the crew. It's this is our fifth film together, so
it's only getting better. It's only getting better and bloodier from here.
Yeah,
right?
it's getting better and bloodier with each one for sure. And the cast is great.
The last day.
What's that?
It was also the last day, so everyone had worked out all the
yeah, for sure. Right?
Angela, so what about you? I mean, how many days did you work on set, Angela? And was there anything that happened that was a creep factor or kind of funny or interesting behind the scenes?
Yeah, I don't remember how many days I shot out my role, but as Kyle mentioned, I had a producer credit on the film, so I was definitely a presence and popping in and out during the shoot. So I kind of lost track of time. It was kind of like Vegas. You're in the casinos and you just don't know what time of day or what day of the week it is when you're on a film set like this. And I think, it was a lot of hard work, a lot of sweat. People were tired but having fun at the same time. And I can vouch for Sean when he says that he showed up even when he wasn't due on set or even on his days off, because there's always something to look at and watch. And I don't want to reveal too much about sort of what my character goes through, whether she's alive or dead or how or what. But that blood is probably, I don't know what to compare it to. When it gets in things, it's in there. When Sarah, when you were talking about showering it off at the end of the night, I agree with you. It is an amazing feeling, but it's not one of those like one-time shower type of things.
You need like 3.
Yes. You need like a scrub daddy or something in your tub to get there.
You know, a mud bath to get it all off, right, Sarah?
Yeah.
It's Angela, realtors tend to be kind of unlikable characters a lot. Was your character kind of a meanie or a positive person in this film?
I liked her, but I feel like, realtors always have money on the brain. And I don't know if that is a good thing in a horror movie where you've got a character who lives in the abandoned spinach factory and things are going down. I'll put money on the fact that he's going to want to defend his turf. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, it's funny because the first film I made was called Blessed, and the guy who played like the bad husband to like a woman who was really victimized and who was the hero, he's still, Carl, when we interviewed Gene, he still said, he thought his character was sympathetic and she was the problem, So it's
yeah. Well, absolutely. Every character, every character will have their motive for being there, for why they want to be there, what they want out of that day. And so I think when you follow these people's stories, and that's the thing, it's a well-written story with great characters. So like you will see why everyone has the need to be in that space or belongs there, or why their interaction with Popeye is warranted.
And have all of the 3 actors, have all of you seen the film, or is this the first time you're going to see it tonight? Sometimes actors see the film before the premiere. I mean, have you seen it yet, or is this your first time tonight?
I haven't.
All right. What about you, Sarah?
I have, because my husband's helping with the publicity.
Sean, yeah.
We saw a screener.
Let's give your husband a little plug there, because he's very good. He reached out to me a couple of times. Just, he's a talented guy.
He is very persistent, and that is why he is effective.
His name is Sean. Is it okay if I say his name? Is it all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
His name's Sean Decker. Yeah, he's. You guys have been together for a couple of years. Great couple, and he's super talented too in his own right. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. He's been working in horror. Well, he would say since 1998, which is true.
Oh.
So he's not to date him, but he started as a horror journalist at Universal Horror Online. Which was
that's
like
right.
First,
yeah,
going way back before any of these publications. And so then he went over to Fangoria, and then he was at Dread Central for a while. He was the first and only West Coast Fangoria correspondent. So like he's OG horror.
Yeah, you guys are a perfect couple for that. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So, but he's also a writer and a producer, and he just directed his first short film that he's been working on. So he has a lot of different creative endeavors outside of just horror journalism.
And were you in that film?
I am, and it's not a horror movie. It's a car racing movie.
Wow. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Is it Fast and Furious 15?
Yes, exactly.
Nice. That's cool.
And so, Angela, have you seen it yet? Have you seen the movie yet? Or are you going to see it tonight for the first time?
I have seen it. And as no surprise, Sarah was amazing. And Sean was really, really great too. So I've seen it because also I helped produce. Yes, so I helped produce on it. And also the official theme song to Popeye the Slayer Man is called Sailor to Slayer, which I happily co-wrote with some lovely collaborators, Dustin, Treinen, and Kyle Brian Abbott. And we wrote this song specifically for this movie because we were so moved by the creativity of the team and the movie. And we said it deserves its own sort of hit. It is its own ballad and hardcore hitting song. And how many indie horrors can say that, right? So I thought this movie was very special. I think this team is really special, and it deserved its own anthem. So not only did we make a song, which is out now, but the music video was directed by Nina Helene, and we had a lovely team. And this is a horror. This group, it's not just like filmmakers and actors, but we're like a horror. I know we're not supposed to say family these days in 2025. It's like, is it like toxic in the workplace or something? But we truly feel like we love working with each other. We keep coming back to each other. We gravitate towards each other, and we just want to keep making good stuff, compelling horror, exciting things that viewers love. So labor of love, but we keep coming back to it.
Yeah. Off of that, Angela. And I actually met Angela when I first moved out to Los Angeles, and it was after I worked on Ouija Witch. But I mean, I connected with Robert and Jeff Miller, a producer on the film, and Angela, and I spent my first Thanksgiving with them here. So it's like they're very close friends of mine. And everyone, I mean, going back to Oneonta again was such a dream. I mean, I didn't realize how much I missed it until I got there. Not only the people, but just the atmosphere, the restaurants. Like it's such a celebration, right, of filmmaking. And I cannot wait to go back there. Who knows, when that will be. But yeah, Oneonta is really like shaping up to be an exciting new filmmaking hub.
Yeah, Kyle, you're going to make Oneonta like Salem's the witch's town or whatever. You're going to make Oneonta the horror capital of the East Coast.
Yeah, that's like
maybe we edit this out.
No, it's the team that Corey Rowe at Seago Media. That whole company of talented folks, like they've done such an amazing job bringing film to town. We're all we grew up in Oneonta too, so it's like. We all went somewhere else to pursue making movies, and it's like you go out into the world, you get that real world experience, and then you go home. You go home to this little charming town in the middle of upstate New York, where it feels kind of exclusive, and there's no film work there. You're 3.5 hours away from New York City, where there's a lot of film work, but it doesn't really trickle up there. So it's like, Corey and the gang, they decided, let's bring some work here. So now that they have all the skill that they learned out in the world in New York and Los Angeles, so they brought it back, and it's like, now it's like this premier little spot that for now it's almost exclusively we've made
ours. We own it.
Yeah. So it's like, it's really cool, like what's being done there. And we wouldn't be able to shoot these movies if we were shooting this in other places, or it would be a much different experience. We'd definitely have to spend a lot more money. So it's like that's one of the driving factors we're able to continue working together, is because we're able to maximize how far the dollar goes on these things. Since we get so many favors in town, and we have so much favor with the community, they open their doors and their arms, and that's like really the only way we keep doing it.
Bob, here's the funny story, Bob. Sean, Sarah, and I live in LA. I mean, I'm based in other cities as well, but like one of my residences is in LA, and Sarah and I live blocks away from each other, and the first time we saw each other was all the way in upstate New York in years. So we were like, fancy meeting you here.
Wow.
So talk about horror bringing people together. I think that's funny. And then Sean, of course, you're dear to me, Sean. So you're welcome to all Thanksgivings.
I want to just a couple quick more questions. Paranormal experiences. So this is a paranormal podcast. We do have actors on, and we talk about movies sometimes, and we even talk about guests that movies are being made about their real life experiences. Angela, we're going to start with you first, because I mentioned your sister Therese is a medium, or was a medium. Well, I guess you never stopped being one. She was on our show. She was a great guest. Have you ever had any paranormal experiences? I'm assuming your sister did. It might be. Is there anything that ever happened to you in your lifetime that was like strange?
When Kyle and I met many, many moons ago, we actually were trying to start a paranormal investigating group.
Oh, cool.
We both loved watching Ghost Hunters and, that franchise and the like. And so I was an amateur ghost hunter, a legit like paranormal investigator, and I had some tools and would investigate. So I think I've only captured one EVP, an electronic voice phenomenon, in my whole life. And I can't find that file because it was so long ago, but I remember it being really impressive because I would let people listen to it without giving them any context. I just say, go to that quiet room and listen to this and tell me if you hear anything. And sure enough, everyone heard the same thing. So I thought that was really exciting. And then for a time, I was in consideration for the Ghost Hunters franchise and to join the cast of other shows, like the one that I think Jack Osborne had, Paranormal Highway, at one point. I was up for that. So yeah, I'm not a stranger to the paranormal world or the horror world. Absolutely love it and have been in it for a long time. So I am a believer. There's stuff out there we cannot explain.
Can you tell Kyle? Because he's still a skeptic with all this stuff that happens, all these podcast epicals. He's still on the fence.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's. I think it's healthy to be skeptical and also to like believe within reason or find that kind of evidence or proof. And evidence is it's soft evidence, right? Because how can we prove what goes on beyond the grave in a way until we're beyond the grave? And by then we might not, who knows what it'll be like. So
we know what it'll be like. Where was that location where you had your first EVP? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think I was a teen. I was like maybe about to enter college and I was on vacation in the Philippines.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, on this podcast, and I think, Kyle, you've been on a couple, I've at least half a dozen times EVPs have bled through on the guest side, right? Talk to psychics or mediums or there's one guy that had this like, a great story. It's actually, it's going to be made into a film. And he had lived in a house for like 15 years or so with his family, and he was still there. It took them forever to get rid of this entity. And he said something about, believing in Christianity and God. And I forget what the EVP said. It said something like negative about God, but you could hear it on his line. You could hear that coming through. And I've had that happen at least probably half a dozen times on this podcast where I interview people where EVPs bleed through. So,
and you heard it at the time it was happening, or
no, when I edited it, so I didn't hear it at the time. But when I edit it and I listen to the track, and it's always on their track, not mine, and I isolate it. And sometimes it's very clear what it is, and sometimes it's because a lot of times EVPs sound like it's behind the wall in the room you're at, like it's next door, like in another room or something, But some of them are very clear. So yeah, we've had that. And when I was making the documentary with Kyle, I got to the point where I was getting EVPs all the time. I had to stop because once you open the door, things happen, Yes. So I actually stopped doing that. Sarah, I would imagine, you seem to me like a person who's probably somewhat of an empath and is kind of open to stuff. Have you ever had any paranormal experiences?
I'm actually on a paranormal ghost hunting show.
Oh, really?
Yes. I was actually, a side note, I was going to talk to you about doing a podcast with all the girls on the show.
Oh, love to. Yeah, that'd be great.
So the show is called Ghost Girls. It's an all-female ghost hunting show. It's the only one that exists. I don't know why nobody thought of this before. So the first episode is on Tubi. There are more episodes that are coming that we have done, and they are edited and all put together. As far as experiences, I'm the skeptic on the show. I'm more in Kyle's camp. I am a believer, but I think there's a logical explanation for the majority of things that people perceive as paranormal experiences. But through the course of our investigations on that show, we've definitely had EVPs. We've had K2 meters, going crazy, temperature drops. We've seen weird movements on the FLIR device. We've had REM pods go off, cat balls go off, batteries get drained. I think the weirdest one is we were doing an investigation at the Glen Tavern Inn, and they put me in a Ouija bikini in a jacuzzi. And the faucet turned on, like water came out of the faucet without anyone touching it. But in my parents' house, in their jacuzzi, they have old plumbing, and that has happened in the jacuzzi in my parents' old house too. So, logical explanation. That's,
You are a skeptic. Well, we're gonna see a year from now if you still are a skeptic on that show. We'll see if it's changed you. It'd be interesting. And yeah, I would love to do that. So reach out. Feel free. Sean, have you had any paranormal experiences in your life?
When I was younger, possibly. In hindsight, I am skeptical towards it. I'm somebody who is moderately skeptical, but also is not naive to the fact that we just don't know enough, and who knows what this universe has out there and how it affects us. I would say that my mother is more affected and interested in paranormal activity. There, something specifically within our family is my mom always knows that her mother, who has passed, is around by certain numbers that appear. Whenever she sees a combination of 3 and 1, she knows that her mother is around. So if it's a sign that says 313, or if she hears something on the radio that's like 13 or 31 or 331, something like that, she knows that her mother is trying to tell her something.
Yeah, I've had so many guests. One guy is a pet psychic, and I had him interview one of my friends, and he was so on the nose with stuff that was like, the guy didn't even realize it until after the fact. He's like, well, he said something about a squeaky toy that lost its squeaky, like a pig or something. And my friend was like, I don't know. And then right on his dashboard was a squeaky toy without the squeaker that he kept when his dog. So he was amazing on the stuff that he had, and he's going to be on the show again. But there are a lot of stories that I hear about. So, it's cool that you guys have all had it. Kyle, sounds like we have to do a paranormal team series, and base it off of Afraid of Nothing with these guys, because we've got skeptics and believers. That would be fun, right?
That would be cool. I concur.
Excellent. So we're at the end. So thank you, everyone, Sean, Sarah, Angela, and Kyle. Just go around one more time. Is there anything upcoming that you'd like to promote? Angela, let's start with you.
I would love to connect with all of your listeners. Please join me on Instagram. Reach out. I'm always happy to meet other horror lovers. Angela Relucio on Instagram, and we can chat more about my upcoming projects and horror in general.
So you want to spell your last name for him?
Yes. So it's at Angela Relucio, and that's spelled Relucio. And before we go, I want to say thank you, Bob. You've been an amazing host. I do love your show. And thank you, Kyle, for facilitating this. It's been years since I've heard your name, Bob. So happy to be on.
Awesome. Loved having you. Sarah, before we started this thing, I had reached out to you a long time ago when I thought I was going to make a movie, and then I went on to something else. So we had a connection a long time ago. Anything upcoming with you? You're always working, but is there anything besides Popeye, the Slayer Man, that you're working on that you want to tell us about?
Yeah. So I have a film called The Garden of Eden, which last I heard was supposed to be released on VOD at the end of this month, but I haven't heard really anything since then. So I don't know if that got pushed or not. That's another really brutal, all practical effects, very gory horror movie. And then Pretty Boy is another horror movie that's being released on VOD in May. And then I have a film that I'm going to be starting in May called Total Party Kill, which is a Dungeons and Dragon all-female role-playing movie that is also very gory practical effects.
Wow.
Type of horror movie.
That's great.
So, lots of fun stuff coming up.
And one more time, your paranormal group. Want to plug that one more time and where they can watch it?
Yeah, Ghost Girls, and you can watch the first episode for free on Tubi.
Excellent. And Sean, I have a hunch you're going to be a regular in all upcoming Salem House Picture films, but anything coming up for you next?
Yeah, I just had a short film come out, a thriller called Interview with the Devil. It's now available on YouTube. It just finished its festival run. I play a very sinister prisoner who was at one time a school shooter. So that was really intense, and very, very proud of the work that the director and the team had done. And I also have a proof of concept I'm going to be producing this summer called Last Call, which is a gritty supernatural horror film that is centered around a mysterious bottle inside of a dive bar. And we're going to be filming that this summer. I'll be starring in it with a good friend of mine, and we start the campaign fundraising page in May.
Excellent. Thank you, Sean. Kyle, let's wrap with you talking. Let's promote one more time where they can watch this film and just get them to the theater or get them to watch it on their couch.
Absolutely. So a film hits select theaters on Friday. I think it's 22 overall theaters that we're playing in. There's a flyer going around on any of the cast. If you go to IMDb and just look up Popeye the Slayer Man, a lot of the cast will have posted the flyer that has all the information for all the theaters that can be seen. So it's basically doing a week run in many different theaters across the US. And then also it will be releasing on the same day, Friday, March 21st, on all platforms. Well, not all, but I should say Amazon, Apple, Fandango at Home, and a few others. So, but if you search for Popeye the Slayer Man, it's going to be a big hit. You're going to be able to find it very easily with as simple as a Google search, and you'll find it. And wherever you want to watch it is just as good. So the important thing is that you just watch it, and we'd love to hear from anybody out there who watches it.
Yeah, and there are two other Popeye films out there. Ignore those. Make sure you go see Popeye the Slayer Man instead, because that's where you want to park your money.
Hey, we didn't say that, but glad you did.
Absolutely, happy to say it. So, thank you, Angela, Sarah, Sean, and Kyle. As always, thank you for being on the show, and look forward to much success with this with Popeye the Slayer Man.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks everybody for their time tonight, and have an awesome time at the premiere. And I can't wait to hear about it.
Thanks so much, Robert. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much, guys. Really excited for the film.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Kyle, once more. Sean and Sarah, I will see you in a couple of short hours for the premiere and the red carpet. And I did want to give a shout out to Robert Michael Ryan, who is our director, and Jeff Miller, our producer, and just everyone in the cast and crew, because it really was a group effort to get this up and just, it's amazing. So thank you to all, and thank you, Bob.
Quick postscript to the episode. I actually did rent Popeye the Slayer Man about a week ago when it was first available, and it was quite entertaining. I got to tell you, I enjoyed it. And it's not me just blowing smoke because I interviewed the cast. I really liked the story. The practical effects were cool. I thought it was inventive and really well produced and shot. I thought it was an enjoyable rental, or if you want to go see it in the theater. So recommended, 2 thumbs up from the Afraid of Nothing podcast to check it out. And really, it's kind of a kick to interview the actors. So a lot of fun. I hope you do check out the movie and support our filmmaker friends.
You've been listening to the Afraid of Nothing podcast. Please subscribe and like us on Facebook. Until next time, stay scared.
Hey, you're still here? Great. Then why not listen to another episode? Visit AfraidOfNothingPodcast.com to peruse all the shows. That's AfraidOfNothingPodcast.com. And while you're there, click the coffee cup icon to buy me a coffee and leave a review. I'll give you a shout out in an upcoming episode, and the world will know how swell you are.